Welcome to the Paradigm Shift, episode 44. No big deal. How you doing? Happy Saturday. Let's get nuts. Buck Wild, we got a very special guest on today. Everybody seems to be super excited about her, and I couldn't be more excited about her personally. I'm a big fan. Waiting for my iconic partner in crime, Big Bad Dave Meltzer, to come on. And let's get nuts. Let's get absolutely crazy, everybody. Drop in the chat what your current state is from 1 to 10. If you're at a 7, then I take full responsibility and accountability to bring it up to a 15. Big Dave, I see you on here. I'm just a little bit nervous that you're going to show up extra handsome and make me look bad, but I'll take my chances. So, woo! Let's get bananas. Where are you, Sex Panther? I don't think it's possible to love you anymore. And then every time I see your face, I do.
Well, you're going to see my face in person this week. We're both sharing a stage with Maxwell and Itzler and really Ken Jocelyn, some greats. I'm really looking. I haven't been to Atlanta in a long time. I got a big day planned on Thursday, on Friday, hurrying home for senior day. So I'm running off stage right to the airport to get to my daughter's senior day, which is more indicative of the balance that I try to leave with the non-negotiables of health, family, and then Craig Siegel.
That's it. It's unbelievable. And straight up, I can't wait to share a stage with you. What an honor. There's some really big legends that are doing it like you intended to. John Maxwell, Jesse Itzler, the articulate alligator himself. And I'm just straight up looking forward to being around big thinkers. And this is what it's all about. So I'm excited for that.
Who makes you more nervous, me or John Maxwell?
Who makes me more nervous?
Yeah, on the stage, knowing that we're watching.
No, neither of you.
There we go.
But I'm excited, straight up as a fan, to absorb all the knowledge and see you guys in action. Dave, you on stage, you're an artist, brother. I love you. You're the best in the world, and I'm your biggest fan.
Did you know that excitement and fear, nerves, have the exact same frequency? It's just one creates dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins in you, and the other creates cortisol, which interferes with your flow. So there's no difference in the frequency of fear on stage or excitement on stage. It's a difference of what you're given for being excited or what you're given for being afraid.
So let's touch upon that for a second. I think this is pretty deep stuff. So like a couple marathons back, I would be nervous the night before, and I didn't run as well as I would like to. But the most recent one, with all this quantum work and you specifically helping me on the side with the frequencies, I was excited, not nervous.
Yeah, and look, I believe the source, we are a resource of the omniscient, all-powerful, all-knowing. We're connected to and through a light that we can't even handle. And if we are not confident, that it illustrates itself in a fear, in a need to be something. That creates cortisol. Cortisol is the most detrimental thing. It creates inflammation, interference between us and our potential. If we are excited, that is an indicator that we're receiving dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins, which actually creates a bigger flow between us and that light, that power. So this is a key biochemical indicator that we are in the right mindset, the right heart set, and the right hand set, or if you're running a marathon, the right foot set, in order to effectuate our potential.
You're on fire. The quantum quail strikes again, also known as the Sex Panther or the Blessed Bat.
The Blessed Bat. I like that. The Blessed Bat. I get a new name every week. That's why I love being here. I'm the Blessed Bat. I may have them also introduce me at that big stage this week in Atlanta as the Blessed Bat.
And you know what the best part is? The nicknames that we have for you are unlimited. They're limitless. Infinite potential, as you like to say, in regards to nicknames. So there's that.
I think instead of the Sex Panther, though, I should be the Sex Cheetah. And because I'm one of the fastest in the world.
Is that right?
Yeah. My wife's going to kill me, but that's okay.
Oh, that one was over my head for a second. Dave, you got to get your stamina up. I'm going to ask you one quickie, and then we're going to bring on Dr. Caroline Leaf, who everyone is super excited for.
Speaking of quickies, you're going to ask me one?
What?
Speaking of quickies, you're going to ask me one?
You're a giddy goose today. I love it. You talked about this this week on your content, and I loved it. The three most important words, and this might surprise people. I don't know.
Yeah, this was something that I really learned from Gary Vaynerchuk. It'll be our anniversary at the Super Bowl, fifth anniversary of working together since I met him, working with him on his sports agency and him helping me. But one of the things that he taught me without telling me, because I had to watch so many Gary Vee videos to figure out how I best could articulate the quantitative value that I had to offer people, was he was extremely good when people asked him questions of saying, I don't know. I added to that, because I am the beloved servant. I am of service to people. I don't know, but I'll help you find the answer. And the answer is there. And I like to learn the answer myself by helping to find the answer. So I don't know. Too many people try to live in ignorant arrogance by making up BS that oversells, back end sells, lies, manipulates, or cheats, and leads people down the wrong trajectory. Because you have credibility in certain areas doesn't mean that you have credibility in all areas, and it doesn't mean that anyone can know everything, even if you're extremely intelligent, academic, or whatever you are. A plumber, I'm going to ask that plumber everything I know about a toilet, but it doesn't mean he knows who's going to win the Niners game today. I'm asking Mike Tannenbaum that.
I love it, and it's so true. Like, look, guys, and the audience listening, if you don't know something, okay. But what you do have is the power to ask who does know and be resourceful enough to figure it out. And that, I love that. And I love you, Sex
I
Cheetah.
love you. The blessed bat, the sex cheetah himself.
We're going to bring on the iconic Dr. Caroline Leaf. I couldn't be more excited for this episode. Are you ready for our weird episode, Dave?
I love it.
This is going to be fun. There she is. Hey, you.
Hello.
Are you ready for our weirdness?
Hi, how are you? Okay,
We're
give me a second here. I'm on my computer and both at the same time. So it's my.
Oh,
Hi.
Speaking of Craig, speaking of I don't know, not only is she so much smarter than us, but she actually sounds way smarter.
100%. With that accent, forget about it.
Oh.
Did we lose her? We'll never lose her.
Let's carry the conversation while she links back in.
Okay, very simply put. Do you have faith in what you're doing? That's big for you. What does it mean?
It's a big difference. Faith to me is something that occurred later in my life, even though my family's so religious. And it's just a simple faith that there's something bigger than me, omniscient, all-powerful, all-knowing source that loves me more than I love my children. And therefore, every setback, failure, mistake in my life becomes a promotion and a protection, not a punishment. Just as if I was going to reach and touch a stove like a 3-year-old, my mom was protecting and promoting me by slapping my hand and yelling at me. But anyway, let's give a proper introduction to our friend.
Dr. Caroline Lee, thank you for joining us. We're all big fans, and the audience is buzzing. They couldn't wait to see you today and to be with you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much. Sorry, we had a few technical issues there. I've got a brand new computer and nothing wants to work on it. So I'm back on the phone. So the main thing is I'm here. I've heard everything that you've been saying, and you're talking about people that I know. And, well, it's great to meet you both. Lovely to meet you both.
It's so great to meet you, and we're going to dive right in. You ready for us?
Oh, absolutely. I'm ready. I've even got a brain and, all kinds of props here to help us understand all these things.
I got one right here.
Yes, I was going to use yours, David, but, you didn't give me enough time to get it out of your head. So I had to make do.
She's great. Dr. Leaf, one of the many things that you talk about that I find so fascinating, and I think it'll be so valuable for the audience today because a lot of people struggle with this. You talk about the misconception that struggling means you're weak, and it actually does. Elaborate on that.
Absolutely. Well, basically, life, as we all know, that if you're going to anything that's worth anything, you have to feel it to heal it. You have to go through the struggle. So struggling is a learning process. So it doesn't mean that you are. We always think that we unfortunately in an era where emotions are seen as illnesses. And if you have any kind of negative emotions, it's seen as something that's wrong with you. And if you're struggling, well, what's wrong with you? Because there's so much advice out there in the wellness movement and all that kind of thing. Meanwhile, struggle is an inherent part of building resilience. So if you don't struggle, you don't build resilience. And resilience is also not some magic thing inside of you. Resilience is, it's not that some people have resilience and therefore won't struggle, and others and others don't have resilience and will struggle. It doesn't work like that. Every single human is meant to struggle. You're meant to be messy, because in that messiness, very much like I'm a scientist, I do research, I do clinical trials, we have hypotheses and we go and explore and see, and this works and that doesn't work. And that's part of the struggle. So if we don't struggle, we don't grow resilience, we don't build our ability to have a possibilities mindset, to be cognitively flexible. And as entrepreneurs, you know that those are vital skills that you need to develop.
Dr. Leaf got nuggets today, Big Dave. What are you smirking at?
Well, I love being around. You know what they say, if you're the smartest one in the room, you're in the wrong room. And I love being in this room this morning. If I'm going to wake up early on Saturdays to be somewhere, it's going to be to learn and grow. Speaking of which, if you're not trying, you're not struggling, right? The universe itself is expanding, growing, and accelerating. And what indicates that we are doing our best, learning lessons, and believe it or not, having fun is the indicator of struggle, setbacks, failures, mistakes, and lessons. And, you know, it's interesting because I had this conversation, most of you know Sadhguru, who I'm blessed to have as a friend of mine. And I asked him about struggle because he talks about suffering and how there's no need for suffering and the difference between suffering and struggling. You know, when we utilize a great mindset, a great heart set, and a great hand set, by repetition, consistent, persistent behavior, by trying, that we actually can control the struggle instead of allowing an inordinate amount of struggle in periodic time. So I think, you know, I'd love, Dr. Lee, if you could kind of share how the brain works with the consistent, persistent trying that actually allows us to mitigate struggle so that we can handle it in bite-sized struggle instead of a lot of people who, you know, are a bull in a china shop and feel as if they're always struggling. And sometimes the struggle becomes to be an insurmountable amount of struggle. And then it reaches, as Sadhguru suggests to me, that is what creates suffering comparatively to joy that can be created from the struggle.
Such a good question, such a good comment. So basically, we've got to give ourselves permission to be messy. And because if you don't get messy, which is the struggling, you can't repair, you can't grow. And it really boils down to that. But the thing that people are in a mindset that it's got to be done in a certain amount of time, and that we've got to mirror someone else's experience. And even though we know deep down that we are unique and we each have our own context-dependent experiences, when we live in the world that we live in, the social media driven world, and we compare, it's so easy to compare ourselves to other people. That makes the struggling more difficult because we keep thinking, well, I did this, and this, why didn't it work? It worked for X person. So really a huge part of it is you've got to create space around yourself to embrace your own messiness. And it's okay to be messy. And so I always talk about the fact that you've got to embrace, you've got to process what you've embraced, and then you've got to reconceptualize it. So people talk a lot about meditation and breathing, and these are all great things, but those only prepare the brain. They prepare the neurophysiology of the brain and the body for being able to move forward. But a lot of people stop there. They think, okay, well, I'm struggling. I'm going to take some time out. I'll take a little break. I'll do some exercise. I'll do some breathing. I'll do some meditation. They feel better, but then they launch back in and they get angry with themselves because they don't seem to be progressing forward quickly enough. And what's the quickly enough being compared to? So we have to have our understanding. There are a couple of things here. So just to sort of like put it all together, we need to really recognize that we've got to embrace and we've got to process and we've got to reconceptualize, which means we have to go beyond mindfulness meditation. We've got to go beyond awareness. It starts with awareness and then we've got to go beyond. So this brings in the brain mind stuff. So here's the brain again, David's brain that I borrowed this morning. And so we all think when we talk in this very neuroscientifically driven age, that we're in very neuroreductionistic age, we talk about the brain often as being the mind. And that's one of the first problems, major problems when it comes to struggle. The brain is not the mind. Because if you think you are your brain, if you think that your brain is doing everything, then the struggle becomes something that feels like it's out of our control. Because we think, oh, well, I'm not succeeding like David or Craig because I X, Y, Z, I don't have this, I don't have that, I can't get that, I've mirrored their skills, I've mirrored their advice, but it's not working for me. Meanwhile, it is working because you're actually busy struggling, and the mere fact that you tried, that is working. So you've got to look at things differently. So your brain is not your mind. Your mind is separate from your brain, and your mind actually drives your brain. Your mind shows up in your brain, and it shows up in your body. So your mind is separate from, but intimately interconnected with the brain and the body. And so your mind is your ability to think, feel, choose, and experience. It's also got all the quantum principles, it's electromagnetics, it's gravitational fields, and all of that makes the brain work. So at the moment we're talking about struggle, we're talking about the concept of why it's good for us. So this conversation is being taken in by everyone listening and viewing as electromagnetic fields, as quantum sound, as quantum waves, as gravitational fields. And we're taking that with our mind. Our mind's taking that, and our mind is thinking, feeling, and choosing, and pushing it into the brain. And the mind then uses the brain to kind of mix this all up, to process it, and build what we are hearing and discussing into the brain as a structural change. And from that structural change, you then have an intimate relationship now between mind, experience, and neurophysiology. And that combination enables us to then produce output. So every experience, that's kind of the process. So when you, as an entrepreneur, and you're facing maybe a financial crisis, or you're trying to grow your business, or you're thinking of new ideas, or you're getting through COVID, or whatever it is, or you're trying to do something that's creative in your entrepreneurial mind, and there's a struggle in this, the desire to do whatever it is that you desire to do is coming from your mind. So our mind is this, we generate from inside out and from outside in. And what we have to do is recognize that the process of generation is a struggle. It is a very messy, experimental, fall down, get up, fall down, as Thomas Edison said when he was interviewed about how it took him 1,001 trials before he invented the light bulb. They asked him, what about your failure? How do you feel about the 1,000 failures? And his immediate response was, I know 1,000 things that don't work. And that's what struggle means. What doesn't work? Well, it's okay to be messy, and the emotions that go with it are all part of the embracing, processing, and reconceptualizing. So I know I've said a lot there. We can unpack that a little bit more, but kind of, I don't know if you want to unpack something there, and I can show you more little things for inside the brain and whatever you want.
Now, first of all, I just have to acknowledge you have the most tranquil voice I've ever heard in my entire life. I could listen to you all day. Second of all, the amount of wisdom that was just shared, and Dave, I could see it on your face. Like, guys, on Saturday morning, just talking about this stuff. There's nowhere else in the world that I'd rather be. Dave, what were you gonna say?
Well, number one, I will have a new nickname. Craig gives me nicknames all the time, like the Blessed Bat, or I like Messy Meltzer now. That's a compliment. So, but I studied the Course in Miracles for over 6 years, and there's a statement that I try to teach, and I always say it's not what I say, it's what people hear, relative to how the mind and the brain work in conjunction with one another. There's a saying that's difficult for me to explain or teach, which is our thoughts come first. Utilizing your extreme knowledge of the mind and the brain, I was hoping that you could teach me how to articulate what I'm trying to say when I tell people that our thoughts come first. It's the cause. What you see is the effect.
Excellent. And it's a very difficult concept to understand, but it's actually not, at the same time, it's actually very easy. So to understand the answer, you kind of got to throw out everything that you've ever heard in terms of thoughts, words, emotions, memories, kind of throw it all out and start now from a blank slate, as though you absolutely go back to ground zero. This is what CIA agents do and FBI agents do when they're trying to solve a crime, is you throw out all the obvious and you start from scratch. In order to understand what I'm saying, do that. Throw out every perception you have of mind, thoughts, brain, thinking, humans behavior, all that. Throw it out and start from scratch and realize that you, the three of us plus everyone watching, all of us are alive. that we all get. But if we were all dead, we would not be having this conversation. We wouldn't be able to have this conversation. But the fact that we are alive, have got all these gravitational fields, electromagnetic light forces, thinking, feeling, choosing, brains working, brains changing. But if you were dead, if the three of us were dead, our brains would be disintegrating. They wouldn't be changing. But we're sitting here together, conversing, and within every second that passes, we are making up to 800,000 to a million new cells. And every single one of those cells not only is represented in the brain as a thought, but it's also in the cytoskeleton of every cell of our body. So we're making new cells, and those new cells contain this information. And every bit of new information that we are learning is also going into every cell of our brain and our body, plus we're making new cells, which also contain. It's phenomenal. The numbers of what we are doing are incredible. But if you're dead, you're doing nothing. So to understand, so to come full circle back to getting to what a thought is, a thought begins with the mind. And the mind is your aliveness. Your mind is the thing that allows us to have this conversation, to create this life in our brain and our body. If someone's dead, you weigh less, literally, as a person dies. The fact that your heart's beating is because of your mind. The fact that your immune system is functioning is because of your mind. So the mind is that life force, and there's a messy part to it, and there's a very wise part to it. And the mind operates and functions and comes into its full flourishing when it shows up inside the brain and the body. So in other words, this information that we gather, we are having an experience with our mind, and we're putting that into the brain, and we're turning this experience that we're having with our mind into a thought. So a thought, David, to answer your question, is the product of the mind having an experience. In other words, of you and I having an experience. And as a thought looks like a tree. That's why I've got this little pot plant. And as a tree has roots and sorry.
I love the props that you have. The brain, the tree.
Yeah, that's for you and I. She knows how quick we are, so she's bringing all the difficult props for us to understand.
I'm giving you exactly. Well, I tell you, this is because they're so it's so hard to understand these things, but it's so easy. So that's why I'm saying this. You literally are growing. That's what a thought looks like. So you are growing the content of this information into the brain as a tree, and the words we saying is the root system. So because we the three having the discussion. But everyone that's listening, same thing. So everything that we are giving is into the root system. And because we're saying lots of words, we're growing lots of roots. So every root that we're growing is a concept that we're saying, and that is a memory. So a thought is made of memories. So that's why thought's got a lot of detail. Those details are the information, the emotions, all the data that goes into it. The branches above the ground are how each of us are uniquely interpreting what we're hearing. So all the people listening and watching are hearing the same thing, root system, but interpreting this differently. So a thought has this very complex structure of getting the information into the root system in the form of memories, and then processing that into the unique individual's interpretation. This combination then produces what you say and what you do and what you feel, because these branches contain data and emotions. So these underneath, all of these branches contain the data plus the emotions that are being generated. So we need this, we need the experience to build this, and from this we can speak. So the mere fact that you've been having this discussion, we're not speaking from fresh air, we are speaking from existing knowledge. You started off this conversation talking about people like John Maxwell, who's a good friend of mine, and various other people, and just in terms of struggle, whatever, all that's already gone into this root system to build a new thought, but it's connected to how you started the conversation. So there's a bunch of these trees. We have these forests of trillions and trillions of thought trees of every experience that we've ever had. And what we're doing is we're pulling on those. Now, in our messiness and struggle, we've got to search through the forest, getting to the wise mind, which is the middle of the forest, the perfect part of the forest, to search through and pull out all the existing knowledge, as well as have a possibilities mindset to embrace new knowledge, and then process that and reconceptualize that into the existing knowledge, and so we keep growing. Okay, I don't know if that made any sense, but that's sort of the bird's eye view of quite hectic 38 years of brain science research.
I have I have a question I'm gonna have to ask. I'm gonna have to have more shows with Dr. Lee because we don't have time because I know by that answer I need to know about the collective consciousness and how the interrelated root system works in order to effectuate a common conscious or a collective conscious. But I can tell already that question would take another half an hour for me to understand it. So please promise at least me that you will come back. I got multiple shows that I need to ask some very deep, concerted questions about the collective itself and the interaction between mind and thought of the collective as well, which we can change this universe, this earth even, with the collective consciousness, which is my ultimate mission, as you know, Craig, to empower over 1 billion people to be happy. It's going to take a collective consciousness to do that. But go ahead, Craig. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just had a comment.
No, that's okay. And it always Saturday. I don't want you guys to spend time with your families and do your thing. But I was really selfishly excited to ask you this one, Doctor. So we'll land the plane with this. One thing that you said, and I think the audience is going to really resonate with this, is how you show up is not who you are. It's who you've become.
Exactly. That is, I think, you've got that from my book, Cleaning Up Your Mental Mess. And that's really what my podcast is, that everything's about cleaning up your mental mess, because 38 years of clinical experience and research has shown me that it's okay to be a mess and you can change it. So all this process I've just described, if you build a toxic thought into your brain, that's not your destiny. So there's the toxic thought. So it's not the pretty one. And if we have a toxic experience, and that can range from extreme trauma to just the day-to-day struggles of toxic people or whatever, or, so the minor stuff to the major stuff. But that still gets built into your brain. Every single experience gets built into your brain. So in amongst this forest of green trees, we've got the toxic trees. But the beauty of it is that with our mind, we can embrace this, see what it's doing to our life, and we can basically rewire it. And that takes time. And that goes right back full circle to one of the first questions you asked, which is why people battle with struggle. It takes time to rewire the brain. This mind-brain process doesn't happen in cycles of 21 days like most people seem to think. Habits do not form. It takes 63 days minimum for a change to happen and a new habit to form, a new behavior to perform. And I've done extensive research on that. And there's not much research around on that. People think it's 21 days. And so when they think of struggle, and they think I've struggled for 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, and they think, you've got to keep going, because every step in the way is progress in that direction. And you've got to work in cycles of 63 days. It takes time to clean up. This is not going to go away, which goes to what you just said there. This is not who you are. This is who you have become. So how you show up, you can find this, and there's ways of looking at it. I've got the app and everything. I'm sure you'll put the links in the show notes. But essentially, cleaning up your mental mess is being able to look at the signals that this is producing. What is this thought with all of its memories producing? And once you know how to tune into these 4 main signals, you can then tune back down into how are you interpreting your particular life related to this whole concept. And then you go beyond that and process right down to finding the origin. And then you go beyond that to reconceptualizing. Your story will always be part of you, but you basically build this in replacement, and this fades into the background. And that anyone can do at any time, and it's hard. But life is hard anyway. So if you don't do anything for the next 63 days, you stay toxic. But if you try and struggle through, whether it's changing your mind or whether it's building something new into your life that you want to manage because of your business or whatever, or you want to build a new way of thinking or change something, it's going to take cycles of 63 days to get your mental health into that space. It takes that long to rewire the brain. And sometimes more than one cycle, depending on what you're doing.
My only final question is, what other props do you have over there?
I've got a whole bag full of them, but you know what? I'm in Miami at the moment. I'm not in my studio. We've actually got a home in Miami as well. I've only got a few here, but in my studio at home, back in Dallas, I have lots more. But I've got these, and I've got a little baby tree, because after 21 days, you only have baby trees, and that doesn't change your mind. And I've got big trees and all kinds of stuff.
I like your South Texas accent as well. And I only have one prop. I took my wife's classes, so I look smart enough to understand this. I do want to point one thing out. The minimum of 63 days, and we can get into this in a future conversation, but there is a quantum memory, energetic and genetic inheritance that creates that minimum, so that if somebody out there is struggling with an addiction, for example, that may be genetically or energetically inherited, that increases the amount of time that it takes to break the chain or decrease or dissolve or dissipate that toxicity that exists between the mind and the brain. And I am just, my mind, exactly. Messy Meltzer is going to have to let the doc go with their South Texas accent because I could spend
It's South
like
African.
Greg every hour.
Texan.
I want to change my schedule. I want to change my whole schedule and stay here.
Yeah, I'm South African, not Texan. We just happened to end up living in Texas when we moved here, but now.
This is called sarcasm between my brain and mine, so I figured that out.
I think so. Look, I've got a Texan accent that's hilarious. So
This was awesome. You blew everybody's mind. So grateful for you. And just like Dave, we got to do more together. What's the best way for the audience to support you?
well, get and jump on my Instagram, Dr. Caroline Leaf, and if they want to know how to detox their brain and clean up the mental mess, I've got lots of tools. So there's the book and there's the app called Neurocycle, and so that's great. If they want some help, there's lots of help out there.
And guys, if you thought this conversation was stimulating, go check out Dr. Leaf, read her book, check out her content. Look, putting out great content is a full-time job. Every single thing that she posts is awesome. It's stimulating, and I legitimately learn something every single post they do. Dave, take it home.
Yeah, well, one, I see Ken Johnson there. I just want to thank Dr. Caroline Leaf because we have the biggest thought leaders on our show, on my shows, and it's very rare that I sit here in awe and humility of how little I know, and it excites me to learn more. And please, everyone, reach out and learn more. What a great resource. A resource is the repetition of source itself, someone who has cleared the interference between the all-knowing, omniscient, and all-powerful source that we all are gloriously connected to and through. Ken Joslin is there as I finish up. Come catch Craig and I on the stage with Itzler and John Maxwell and all the big names. I don't know why they don't have Dr. Leaf with us on stage. I think I'm going to stow her away in my bag and come with a super surprise. I'll just sit in the corner. I'll hold the props while she talks for an hour at our later.
Your brain.
Are you available Friday at 1 o'clock? You'll catch me sitting on stage with my props. Thank you, everyone. Reach me, David@dmeltzer.com.
Thank you both for what you do and for having me on your show. I really appreciate it.
Dr. Leaf, thank you so much for joining us and just the beginning of the friendship. Have a great weekend, guys.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye-bye, Craigie Poo. I'll see you this week.
Yes, love you guys.
Love you. Bye.
That's what the paradigm shift is all about. Stimulating our brains, revamping our mindsets, and just being educated with what we are capable of in this world. And also the misconception about suffering. Guys, why I love that conversation for the many reasons is just that where we're at right now is not a life sentence. It's not an indication of where we're going to be forever. We could change our frequencies, our thoughts. We can replace them with more empowering ones. And even like Dr. Leap was saying at the end, like, how you show up is not who you are, it's who you become. And if you put in the work, you can change that. And is it hard? Yes, it is. But you know what else hard? It is staying the same for 65 days, like she said, in a toxic environment. That's no good either. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. My mind is blown. Go check out Dr. Lee. For all of you that are not already in the CLS texting community, it's totally free. For more nuggets like this every day, text a number at the bottom of the screen. It's totally free. 917-634-3796. And just come stop by and hit up the CLS membership and just have fun with us, guys. We just want to contribute and make an impact. And I can tell you right now firsthand that conversation made a gigantic impact on me. And that's what it's all about. And those are the guests that we like to bring on to elevate us and educate us and spread light. And that's exactly what Dr. Caroline Leaf did. So go check out everything that she has going on, guys. She's phenomenal, straight up. Everybody's out today. I see Rachie in the house, Lori, Jesse, Alexandra, Oleska, my mom, and hundreds more. So this was awesome, guys. Yes, I see you all texting number at the bottom of the screen to join the texting community. Bottom line, for the rest of the weekend, sharpen the axe. Do something that'll set you up for the following week. Ken Johnson in the house. Love you, buddy. Can't wait to give you a big bear hug next week. Guys, sharpen the axe today. Do something that will set you up for next week. Get a little bit better. Listen to a podcast, read a book, listen to an audio book, journal, whiteboard. Have a vision, because you can't hit a target that you cannot see. And that's where the power of intention comes into play. So you have to put those thoughts out there as electrical signals into the universe, right? Because then it becomes a possibility. Now you actually take inspired action. Now it becomes a probability, and that's what it's all about. There is literally nothing that we can't do. And talk about the quantum. I mean, Dr. Leaf helped explain that on a level that I haven't quite heard before. Just beautiful conversation. If you love the show, guys, continue to share it. And join the free texting community at the bottom of the screen. I love you guys. And I could stay here all day with you guys. I love you. I see you guys are all fired up. And McGowan in the house. Essie in the house. Hell yeah. You guys are on fire. You can't be stopped. Let's have an unbelievable weekend, guys. I just got back from a nice 10K, a 6.2-mile run to Central Park and back. It's absolutely brisk out. It's about 10 degrees. But in my head, it's 95 and sunny. And that's the place that I choose to live. So there's that. I love you guys. Stacy in the house, the Quantum Queen, Ken Johnson. I love you, brother. Everybody have an unbelievable day and sharpen the axe. Love you guys.